Okay, so today we're going to be doing a different little video here. I have talked multiple times on this channel about my to be read pile of books, and recently, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, I did a video where I reorganized everything because the way that I had some books laying in here, I was accidentally bending some book covers, which is a big no-no in my opinion. However, I have decided that, and I've been wanting to do this for a few weeks, I just never got around to doing it. I have decided that I want to go through each of these pile of books, container-wise, and I want to take out the books that I just don't think I'm going to read right away because I do know I have some books in each of these that I think I'm just not going to read right now, and I want to create more space for books that I will be reading. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first one is Sea of Charms. This one is from Sarah Beth Durst. I actually read her other two books, The Enchanted Garden and The Spell Shop. I really like it. This was actually a new release. My mom got it for me a couple of days ago. So this is definitely going to be a keep in the pile of books. I plan to be reading this here very, very soon. I'm very excited. I liked the other two books that she wrote, so I'm really excited to see how this one is. So definitely keeping in here. Okay, so next up is The Secret Christmas Library. This book was actually a Christmas gift. It looked really, really good. I thought the cover was just beautiful. However, I tried to read it last year at the very end. I think it was like right after Christmas I tried to read it. I did not like it at that time. Like, I think I got like maybe this far into the book and then I had to like stop reading it. I would like to try to reread this book just to see if maybe reading it again at a different time I would feel different. So I'm going to put this in the maybe pile, which is going to be like right there. Like I said, I do potentially want to try rereading that again just to see if maybe I wasn't feeling it at that time I initially read it, and maybe I'll feel it again a different time, if that makes sense. Okay, next up is A Curse for True Love. This is one of the books in the A Curse for True Love series, or the Once Upon a Broken Heart series. This book I actually read, like, I think it was close to 100 pages in this before I realized that I had been reading the books in the wrong order. And then the other day I was watching a video from a book person, and apparently I was reading them in the correct order. The other two books the third book I didn't love. The first book was okay. I was really enjoying this book. So I do want to reread this book or finish this book altogether because this might be my favorite book of the series. So I do want to go ahead and finish the series once and for all at some point. All right. Next up is Anne of the Isle. This is the third book in the Anne of Green Gables series. I've talked about this before, but I'll say it again. Anne of Green Gables is my favorite book. I think it is a book that everyone should read. I think it's actually considered a classic, which is very nice. And yeah, I love that time period. So definitely want to read this, and then I can finish the series. Actually, I think there are more than 3 books in that series, to be honest. All right, so next up is The Mysterious Benedict Society. Not gonna lie, I really want to read this here soon. Apparently it's part of a book series. It's definitely a thick one, and a little like heads up, or a little tip here. If you're a person that does not like to read spice and you're having a hard time reading just like a fun book, go into the kids section at the bookstore because you'd be surprised what you can find. But I definitely want to read this here soon because I feel like this one's going to make me giggle. All right, next up is A Dance of Thieves. This book here got for Christmas. I also got that one for Christmas. And I've heard a lot of really good things about this. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little nervous, but I do want to read this here very soon. So definitely in that pile. Whoops, right there. All right, next up is The Forgotten Garden. I actually tried reading this earlier this year, and it was kind of like meh for me at that time, but I do want to go ahead and try to read this again, so I'm going to add this to the yes pile. All right, next up is Tress of the Emerald Sea. This book right here, I do want to read, but I don't know when I'm going to get around to it. I've heard some people say on the internet that this book can be a very emotional book. So I've also heard that this author is very, very popular. So this is going to go in this pile for now. because I do want to read that at some point, but it's not in like the pile that I want to read sooner, if that makes sense. Next up is called The Dragon Wakes with Thunder. I've never heard of this author, but I think this was also a Christmas gift. I feel like this is going to give me like Mulan vibes. Yeah, so I do want to read this, but not this second. All right, next up is The Mysterious Bakery on Rue de Paris, and this was also a Christmas gift, I believe. I do want to read this, but as you can see, I accidentally dented the thing there, which is fine. I'm going to put that in this pile because I keep getting more gravitated toward this one first, so we'll see how this goes. I like the covers. I think the covers are really cool looking. All right, and then last up is the Cassandra Clare, the Swordcatcher book. Now, this book, apparently this author is very, very popular. I think recently she wrote another book that a lot of people are like really into. My mom got me this a while ago. I'm not gonna lie, I actually had to Google it to make sure there was nothing in it, and it said it was no spice. I do want to read this. I don't know when I'm going to get around to it, but I'm going to keep this in the main pile. It is a big book. Not going to lie. As much as I like reading thicker books, sometimes the size of books definitely kind of intimidate me. Not going to lie. Okay, so now we're on to container number 2. So this book here is called A Tale of Magic, and this is by the author that wrote the, what's it called? Land of Stories. I tried to read this earlier this year. I just was not into it at that time. So I do want to read this again. I don't know what pile I'm going to put this in, but I do want to read this again because I want to see if reading it at another day is going to be, I'll be more into it, if that makes sense. But I really like that tale, or I really liked the Land of Stories series. So I really want to like this right there for now. All right, next up is A Curse of the Night Witch. My mom got me this, I think it was last year, and I'm not really into this at this second, but I'm going to put this in this pile for now. Next up is The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea. I do have an interest in reading that a little bit sooner. Okay, next up is The Whisper Wicks, The Impossible Trials of Benjamin Creek. Oh, this is the second book. This is the third book, or this is the first book. The Whippoorwicks, The Labyrinth of Lost and Found. For now. All right, and then this is The Unwanteds. This is apparently The Hunger Game meets Harry Potter. I love Harry Potter. It's one of my favorite book series and one of my favorite movies ever. So, yeah, I think I'll put that in there. And then the green glass house. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how I want to do like the organization in here because, yeah, thinking maybe doing one pile of historical, one pile of the things I want to read right away, and then the other pile be, I gotta figure that one out. Gotta figure that one out in a little bit. Okay, next up is the book 3 of the Encyclopedia of Fairies. I read the first 2, definitely gonna read this one soon because I really enjoyed the other 2. The Trials of Apollo. This is book 1. Okay, good. Apparently this is like the continued series, if that makes sense, of Percy Jackson, which I really like, and I've been wanting to read this one, so definitely in that pile. All right, this book, The Aftermath, I do want to read at some point because I really just, the cover of that intrigues me. Not gonna lie. Okay, this is new, and I'm definitely going to read this here soon. This is Shadow over the Pumpkin Queen. Definitely going to read this here soon. Whatever. All right, The Court of the Dead. Again, I'm going to read this here soon because I just got to know what that means. All right, next up is The Notorious Virtues. I don't know what in the heck this book is about, but I feel like this book is kind of similar to what is this book about? I do want to read this at some point. I got this a few years ago. I want to say this book is kind of like, the cover reminds me of the Hawthorne series, like the You know what I mean? The Hawthorne Brothers series, which apparently there's another book in that coming out. All right, and then this is recent, but to be honest, I think I'm going to put this in this pile for now because, yeah. Okay, so next up is going to be the historical books. So the first one is this. I am going to keep all my historical books in here because I do want to keep that genre together. This book, Becoming Madam Secretary, this was one of her new releases. I read the Foundling Mother back like before 4th of July. I really liked it, so I'm really hoping I'm gonna like this one too. So far, all the books that this author has written, I really enjoy. The only book I'm gonna take out of here is George Washington, because this is one of those books that I would consider a book that you purchase to just put on the bookshelf as like part of like a collection or something, but maybe you just don't, maybe you had the intention of reading it at some point, but maybe you don't, or you don't have that intention anymore. I don't know when I'm gonna read this. I like collecting books about like historical figures, so I think I'm just gonna go ahead and put that on my bookcase and take it out here. I might read it at some point, but as of right now, I think I'm just gonna put that book away. All right, I'm gonna keep all these in here because, like I said, I just wanted to take that one book out. All right, so as you can see, I reorganized and I have plenty of room. I love reading historical books because I just love learning about history. So this is something that I'm not going to tweak that much. All right, so I'm going to make this container be the container where I have the books that, or I'm going to put the books in here that I do want to read, but I don't think I'm going to be able to fit all of this pile in. So I think what I'm going to do is take the final two things here and put those piles in there, and then put these books here in another pile so that I can create more space, because I definitely need to create more space. Okay, so this is what one pile looks like so far. I'm going to go ahead and use the other one to do the rest, but I do have some space in here which feels really good. All right, so this pile here is going to be the rest of the books that I want to at some point read. I think this one is probably going to be mostly hardcover, to be honest, but that's okay. Okay, Aftermath. And then, can I do that? Yeah. Okay. Way more room now. Okay, so this was like a miscellaneous pile. I really need to take that stuff off. So in here, we're just going to go ahead and put the rest of these books, because this is going to be the pile of books that I do want to read at some point, but they're not on my like priority to read right now list, if that makes sense. So, yeah. Okay, and I think we're going to put, like, some of my finished embroidery projects in here also. Right, so I want to go ahead and end this video here and share the books that I'm actually going to be getting rid of. So I will be the first one to admit that getting rid of books for me is equivalent to getting rid of blankets. I have a lot of them, and I have a hard time getting rid of them, if that makes sense. But I have decided that I want to go ahead and get rid of a handful at this point. I do want to go through my bookcase sometime here in the near future and really go through everything. But these are just off the top of my head, the ones that I do want to get rid of. The first one is Caraval. This is a very popular book series. A lot of people were like ranting and raving about how amazing it was on the internet. So I tried it just to see how I like it. I posted a book review on this. I found this to be very dark. I did not like it. And by the way, some of the books, or like two of the books here, are going to be very popular, like book series wise. If you want to disagree with me, you are more than welcome to disagree with me in the comments. All I ask is that you please remain respectful, because if people cannot remain respectful with disagreeing, I'm going to turn the comments off, because it's a book. It's literally a book. So yeah, first one is Caraval. I know there's like two other books in this series. I'm not going to read them. All right, so next up is Powerless. This book is also very popular. I read it, I think it was last year in the fall. I liked the beginning of it, but I ended up having to skim through the rest. So we're going to get rid of that. All right, next up is The Dragon's Apprentice. I just read this for fun recently. I thought it was a cute book. Kind of made me laugh, but I'm not going to continue the series. It was just one of those like really fun reads. Next up is Court of Bitterthorn. I thought I would like the series, but I did not like the first book, so we're just going to get rid of it. Next up is The Shadows of the Dark Crystal. This is actually a movie, I think. Actually, I've watched this movie. Yeah, I just don't want it anymore. Next up is this book about Theodore Roosevelt. I did do a book review on this. I love historical books, but this one I just ended up really not liking. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. And then we're going to go ahead and get rid of the book, The Ichabod. I got this one a while ago, like a long time ago. And I read it once. I thought it was cute, but it's time to pass it on to someone who will love it. Or actually going to be... My dad is going to put these books for me in a little library. Apparently, these little libraries are very popular. I've seen them all over the internet. And it's so fun to watch people get so much joy out of going into one of those and find a book that they really like. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go ahead and give these books to a little library so someone else can enjoy them. So that was it for this video. This video was significantly longer than my usual videos, but I thought, you know what, let's try something a little bit longer here. And yeah, so that would be it.